At the Pan-Pacific Expo, the Japanese government had a huge presence there. As part of a display for food products from Shizuoka, they built structures to help draw attention to their display, and two of those structures were the Temple Gate and the Pagoda. When the fair ended, there were efforts to try to find homes for a lot of the features of the fair. John McLaren was sent out to the fair to look at the pagoda. He said it was a beautiful structure and it was put together well, but it was not meant to be outdoors. But eventually, the pagoda became free. The only expense was physically moving it from the marina. They came on low carts that were pulled by horses. They didn't take it apart and reassemble it here. It came as one solid piece.
Now you take an indoor building and you put it outdoors in a semi-marine environment.
If you got up close, you could see that things were falling apart, literally falling apart.
We'd been in this period where we were sort of neglected. The pagoda got shingled in 1965 and not again after that. It was December 2018 that Phil, along with the Friends of the Japanese Tea Garden, agreed that we were going to renovate the pagoda. The types of people that can do this type of work, there aren't many in the public domain. We figured out by talking to our in-house carpentry shop that we had the skill set in-house to be able to do the work.
Our previous supervisor was never backed away from a challenge. He thought it would be a really good opportunity to kind of showcase the level of work that we're capable of in the carpenter shop here in Golden Gate Park. We had scaffolding all the way up and around it, and so it was completely covered. To understand how it was even put together, we really had to slowly and carefully kind of take it apart and deconstruct, surgically doing selective demo.
Taking pieces off and seeing Japanese writing on it.
A lot of Sharpies and labeling and photo documenting, like absolutely everything. All we wanted to do was make sure we were reproducing exactly what we had taken out. The primary issues that we were encountering was insect damage, rodent damage, the roof had failed, the weather here, constant moisture and fog and effects of the ocean. We had a lot of salvaged redwood from some old water tanks up at the city camp, Camp Mather. We were able to mill it down and use this ancient redwood. And then for stuff that had to be more structural, we use a product called Accoya in terms of doing kind of the stabilization aspect of the project. I mean, start at the bottom, right? When this was relocated here, they added significant timbers in the center, which I think is what allowed it to like stay standing. And those go all the way down to footers inside the base of the pagoda. That spire that's up on top, that actually extends all the way down through the base, and then the corner hip rafters tie into that. So we had to get in there and do some strengthening. And obviously, as you go up, it gets tighter and tighter. So there were moments of claustrophobia and, well, there were a couple times where I thought I was had gotten myself into a spot that I couldn't get out of, so.
There were discussions when we were renovating the pagoda, do we try to pull those beams back in and true them up to what they were when it was brand new? If they tried to pull those back into place, they would have broken and cracked so many other pieces that they decided to just try to hold it in the shape that it's in now.
Little Rafterettes, those are all mortised into, we were calling it a mid-span purlin. Those all had to be notched in, and it's like, it goes from 0 degrees to 3 to 5 to 7 to 11 degrees, and then finally 15 degrees. I mean, that was
one of us on the inside installing and the other up on the scaffold with a chop saw.
So the handrail details up top, the curved ends, a lot of those had to be recreated.
And luckily, the Dougongs were intact for the most part.
Yeah.
Since it was made for the fair, they're not the real McCoy.
They also would go all the way back into the pagoda and serve a structural purpose. whereas these are kind of tacked on.
We had a lot of help from Jose, and who was brought on for the project, and then there were 3 roofers. It'd take 9 courses of shingles at the end and tapering down to 1 course to give it that flair, and the metalworking master.
On these double doors on the mezzanine level here, there's all that copper applique. The end caps of the hip rafters, that's copper.
Might have been 2 or 3 weeks of up there with a little hammer and little copper nails, applying all the copper.
Yeah.
Since it was all covered in scaffolding and plastic, you could never step back and make sure that everything was in line with the next roof. So I was losing a little sleep when they were going to take the scaffolding down and wondering if this roof was going to be.
That's a really, really good point.
Lopsided?
Yeah.
So the actual legit working was a little over 2 years.
So we had an opening ceremony, and a Shinto priest came and he blessed it and made a stand with fruit and sake and kind of put closure to the project. I don't know, it just means a lot.
Toasted with wooden boxes of sake.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hope that it lasts another 125 years. It is something to see. It is just absolutely magnificent.
Their mindset the whole time they were working here is they want this thing to be around for another 100 years. That's the feeling that I have working in the garden as well, is I want it to be not only here 100 years from now, but hopefully better than it is today. I feel like the garden today is the best it's ever been.
I think there was a lot of pride when it finally got unveiled. You know, you kind of stand back and wow, somehow we pulled that off. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.